There's nothing in gaming quite like the sound of your own heartbeat when you're inches away from being caught. Great stealth games are about hiding in shadows, patience, precision, and that perfect moment of execution. So yeah, this isn't some random list padded with mid-bullshit. These are stealth games that actually earn your time and your money. The ones where staying unseen feels better than pulling the trigger. Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain. This game is something else. It is quite literally the best playing stealth game ever made, and I don't think anything has even come close to dethroning it since it came out. The story is kind of a mess. It feels unfinished. It's got that classic Kojima weirdness, where you're not sure if he's a genius or just high on something potent. But the actual act of playing this video game is pure euphoria. It is the gold standard. Most stealth games, you know, they kind of hold your hand, or they force you into this very rigid box, where you have to sit there crouching behind a waist-high wall for 10 minutes, waiting for a guard to walk in a circle like a robot with a lobotomy. But here, the stealth it's fluid. It is unbelievably responsive. You control Venom Snake, and he moves exactly how you want him to move. You can dive, you can roll, you can crawl on your back and aim between your legs. It feels like you are actually a legendary soldier, and not just some guy fighting the controls. The Fox engine is a marvel, and it is a tragedy that Konami is just letting it rot in a dungeon somewhere. The enemy AI is also actually intelligent, which is rare. Usually in these games, the enemies are about as smart as a bag of rocks, but here they learn. They actually adapt to how you play. If you're the guy who just sits on a hill and snipes everyone in the head every single mission, the enemies are going to start wearing helmets. If you attack at night constantly, they start equipping night vision goggles and setting up more lights. It forces you to actually switch up your tactics and use the tools the game gives you. And there are so many tools. You can use a cardboard box to slide down hills. You can use your horse to poop on the road to make enemy jeeps spin out, which is a legitimate strategy by the way, or you can just use the Fulton recovery system to kidnap literally everyone. That is the most addicting loop I have ever experienced. You just run around attaching balloons to soldiers, sheep, tanks, shipping containers, and watching them fly into the sky while the guy screams. It turns the game into this weird Pokemon collectathon, where you're trying to find the soldier with the best stats to kidnap him and force him to work for you at your base. It is goofy, sure, but it feeds into the gameplay loop perfectly. And even when you mess up, the game doesn't punish you by making you reload immediately. You have that reflex mode where time slows down for a second, giving you a chance to pop the guy before he alerts the whole base. It makes you feel cool, it keeps the flow going, and it stops it from becoming a frustrating trial and error fest. It really is a sandbox in the truest sense of the word. You can approach any outpost from any angle with any loadout, and the game just says, go for it. You want to go in with a rocket launcher and blow everything up? Fine. You want to use a water pistol to short circuit the electronics and sneak past everyone like a ghost? You can do that too. It respects your time, it respects your intelligence, and it is just genuinely fun to play every single second you are in it. It is a masterpiece of mechanics. This is the peak. It is arguably the greatest stealth sandbox ever created, and I don't say that lightly. Most stealth games are all about hiding in the shadows, waiting for a guard to turn around so you can scurry past them like a rat in a restaurant's kitchen. But Hitman is different. It's social stealth. You aren't hiding in a cardboard box, you're hiding in plain sight wearing a flamingo mascot suit while attending a high-stakes race car event. It turns murder into a puzzle, and it is weirdly wholesome in its creativity, which says a lot about me, I guess. The sheer volume of content here is staggering. It's like they took 3 full games, mashed them together, and said, here, go nuts. And the stealth mechanics are just, they are perfect for this type of game. It's not about twitch reflexes or being a ninja, it's about patience and being a manipulative psychopath. You walk into a room, you see a target, and you have about 50 different ways to take them out. You can shoot them, sure, but that's boring, that's vanilla. Why shoot them when you can loosen a chandelier, poison their drink with rat poison so they go to the bathroom, and then drown them in the toilet, or replace their exploding golf ball with a real one? The game encourages you to be the most creative Grim Reaper possible. And the disguises system is the bread and butter here. You knock a guy out, steal his clothes, and suddenly you are the chef, you are the security guard. But the game is smart about it. It has these enforcers, specific NPCs who can see through your disguise because, yeah, the head chef probably knows who his sous chef is and realizes it's not the 6'2" bald white guy with a barcode on the back of his head. It creates this constant tension where you're walking through a crowd, trying to act normal, sweating bullets because one guy with a white dot over his head is looking at you a little too closely. It's thrilling. It makes you feel like a spy in a way no other game really captures. The levels themselves are absolute masterpieces of design. I'm not exaggerating when I say these are some of the best maps in gaming history. Places like Sapienza or Paris are dense, they are lived in. There are hundreds of NPCs all doing their own thing, having conversations, living their lives, completely unaware that you're about to drop a moose statue on someone's head. The clockwork nature of the AI is hilarious but essential. You learn their patterns. You know that at 12:05 p.m. the target drinks his water. At 12:10 he yells at his assistant. It allows you to set up these Rube Goldberg machines of death that are just so satisfying to pull off. And when things go wrong, and they will go wrong because you're a goober, the chaos is fantastic. Throwing a homing briefcase at a guy's head while running away in a clown chute is peak gaming. Then you have Freelancer mode, which takes all of this and turns it into a roguelike. It strips away the save scumming. You can't just save before a kill and reload if you mess up. If you die, you lose your gear, you lose your money. It raises the stakes to an uncomfortable level. It forces you to improvise, to use tools you normally wouldn't touch, and it makes every successful extraction feel like you just pulled off the heist of the century. It breathes infinite life into a game that was already massive. It is just an endless playground of assassination. If you like stealth, if you like puzzles, or if you just like slapstick comedy involving deadly weapons, this is the Grand Salami. It is exceptional. Splinter Cell Chaos Theory. This is the Mona Lisa of stealth games. If you look up stealth in the dictionary, it should just be a picture of Sam Fisher wearing those iconic trifocal goggles, probably holding a knife to some poor guard's throat. It is tragic, honestly, looking at this game and realizing that Ubisoft used to be capable of making something this competent, this polished, and this soulful. It makes modern Ubisoft games look like they were coded by a room full of monkeys banging on typewriters hoping to accidentally write Shakespeare. This game is from 2005, and it still mechanics checks almost every single game released in the last 2 decades. The stealth here is pure, unfiltered anxiety, like really awesome. It relies on this light and sound meter system that is just genius. It gives you actual information. You aren't guessing if you're hidden. The game tells you exactly how visible you are and exactly how much noise you are making. And the movement speed. Oh my god, the movement speed. On PC, you control your speed with the mouse wheel. You can dial it down to a snail's pace, where you are moving slower than a tectonic plate to make sure you don't make a single decibel of noise on broken glass. It gives you this granular control over your character that makes you feel like you are actually inhabiting the suit. You aren't just pressing a sneak button, you are actively managing your presence in the world.
Didn't anyone ever tell you that spelunking is dangerous?
Oh no!
And Sam Fisher in this game is an absolute savage. This was the first game in the series where they gave him a knife, and it changed everything. Before, you were just elbowing people in the back of the head like a drunk uncle at a barbecue. Now, you're grabbing them, putting a blade to their neck, and dragging them into the shadows. The interrogations are legendary. The writing is so sharp, so witty. Sam is just this grumpy, cynical dad who is completely done with everyone's crap. You grab a guard, and the dialogue is actually funny. It adds so much personality to a genre that is usually super serious and dry. You actually want to grab people just to hear what Sam is going to say to them before he knocks them out. The level design is also just pure perfect. The bank mission is that's the gold standard. It is the perfect heist level. You're dodging lasers, hacking computers, cutting power, using thermal vision to see key codes on pads. It makes you feel smart. It doesn't hold your hand. It doesn't have big yellow paint splashes telling you climb here, stupid. You have to use your brain. You have to observe the patrols. You have to actually be a spy. And the soundtrack by Eamon Tobin, it is absolute gas. It's this gritty, glitchy, tense electronic music that perfectly matches the vibe of sneaking through a rainy lighthouse or a cargo ship. And I have to mention the co-op. The co-op in this game is chaos incarnate. It requires actual teamwork. You have to boost each other up walls, rappel down elevator shafts together, but inevitably, you or your friend is going to mess up, trip a laser, and turn the mission into a frantic shootout where you both die instantly because Sam Fisher has the durability of a wet paper towel in a gunfight. It is beautiful. Chaos Theory isn't just a good Splinter Cell game, it is one of the greatest video games ever made. It stands the test of time effortlessly. It is a masterpiece. Alright, quick thing before we continue the video. I let a random bot picker decide my mobile games. It chose Mech Arena as the main grind, and Legend of Elements and Legend of Mushroom as side games between matches. I wanted to see how fast you can start Mech Arena without cheating, and that's when I found the Aptoid version of the game, which I honestly didn't know had extra stuff. From the Aptoid version, you start with a 5-star Brickhouse mech, Impulse, the Xaviera pilot, Cryo Launcher 8, 500 HC, and 100,000 credits. That's not a small bonus. That's basically skipping weeks of early grind. And there's one more thing. If you install Mech Arena using the Aptoid link in my description and use my code MECH, you can get up to 25% cash back on in-game purchases through Aptoid. So if you already spend on the game, this just gives you money back. I'll leave the Aptoid link and code in the description and pinned comment. Just make sure it's the Aptoid version or you won't get the rewards. Alright, now let's see how broken this account actually is. Dishonored 2 is essentially a playground for psychopaths who like to solve puzzles with murder, and it is arguably the best immersive sim ever made. It's a tragedy that this genre is dying out because Arcane really hit a grand salami with this one before they fell off a cliff. The game drops you into these massive, intricate levels and just tells you to figure it out. There are no wrong answers here, only varying degrees of chaos and body counts. You can play the entire game without killing a single person, sneaking around like a ghost that's afraid of its own shadow, or you can walk in the front door and turn everyone into ash with supernatural powers. The freedom here is actually overwhelming at first because you aren't used to a game respecting your intelligence this much. The level design is the real star of the show. The Clockwork Mansion is a technical marvel that puts other studios to shame. You pull a lever and the entire house reassembles itself like a giant wooden Rubik's Cube. Walls shift, floors drop out, and new rooms appear. It isn't just a gimmick, it completely changes how you navigate the space and how you approach your targets. You can slip between the walls and crawl through the gears to bypass security, seeing the skeleton of the house while the guards are patrolling the fancy rooms. Then you have the level where you can travel back and forth in time instantly to solve puzzles and sneak past guards in 2 different eras simultaneously. It is mind-boggling how much effort went into making these spaces feel real and reactive. The stealth mechanics are fluid and give you an absurd amount of control. You have so many options for mobility that walking feels obsolete. If you play as Emily, you get the far reach ability, which lets you slingshot yourself across the map. Her domino power is probably the most fun ability in any stealth game. You can link the fates of multiple enemies together, so if you shoot one in the head, the other 3 guys linked to him also die instantly. It makes clearing a room feel like setting up a row of dominoes and knocking them down. It's extremely satisfying to link a guard to his own captain and then just choke the captain out, watching the subordinate drop unconscious from across the room without ever touching him. The AI is sharp on higher difficulties. They don't just stand there when they see a dead body, they panic, they search, and they coordinate. But the game gives you enough tools to make them look like idiots if you're good enough. You can stop time, possess a rat, rewire their security systems to incinerate them, or just throw a glass bottle to distract them and slip by. The chaos system adds a nice layer of consequence to your actions. If you go around slaughtering everyone, the world gets darker, more rats appear, and the characters treat you like the monster you are. It makes your choices feel like they actually matter to the world state, not just the ending cutscene. It isn't perfect though. The story is pretty standard revenge fodder, and the voice acting for the main characters can be a little wooden. At launch, the performance on PC was absolute hot garbage, stuttering more than a nervous teenager asking for a date. It's mostly fixed now, but it still has its moments of jank. However, none of that really matters when the gameplay loop is this strong. Dishonored 2 is a masterclass in design that rewards creativity and patience. It is one of those games you can replay 10 times and still find new routes or new ways to torment the guards. It is exceptional. Thief 2 is the grandfather of the entire genre, and frankly, it is embarrassing that a game from the year 2000 still understands stealth better than almost every AAA title released today. You have to get past the graphics first, because let's be real, it looks like, well, it looks like a fucking 2000s graphics game, so that's that. The characters look like blocky potato people, and the textures are muddy enough to stick a pig in. But if you can look past the visuals, you will find the most mechanically deep and rewarding stealth experience ever made. It doesn't hold your hand, it doesn't give you a magical radar that shows you where every enemy is through walls. walls, and it definitely doesn't play the game for you. You are on your own, and that is why it is so good. The entire game is built around sound. In most modern games, sound is just there for atmosphere, but in Thief 2, sound is your life. You are constantly listening to the footsteps of guards to figure out where they are, what surface they are walking on, and how close they are to finding you. Different surfaces make different noises. Walking on tile or metal is a death sentence, while carpet is your best friend. This forces you to actually pay attention to the environment instead of just sprinting everywhere like a headless chicken. You have to move slow, you have to be deliberate, and you have to use your equipment to manipulate the world. The moss arrow is one of the coolest tools in gaming history. You shoot it at a loud surface and it grows a patch of moss that silences your footsteps. You are literally creating your own stealth path. Then there are the water arrows. You aren't just shooting guys in the head, you are shooting torches to put them out and create shadows. The light gem at the bottom of the screen is your only indicator of how visible you are. It is simple, it is effective, and it communicates everything you need to know without cluttering the screen with a million UI elements. You spend most of your time huddled in a dark corner, praying a guard doesn't walk 2 inches closer, and the tension is palpable. The guards actually have personality too. They mutter to themselves, they complain about their bosses, and they have conversations that give you clues about the level. The writing for the main villain, Karis, is also fantastic. He is this annoying, screeching, religious zealot that you just desperately want to rob blind. The level design is massive. The mission Life of the Party is basically an open world level before open worlds were a standard thing. You are traversing the rooftops of an entire city, breaking into a massive tower called Angel Watch. The verticality is insane. You are using rope arrows to climb up to wooden beams, dropping down onto balconies, and sneaking through windows. The game gives you a map, but it is vague and incomplete because Garrett, the main character, drew it himself. It forces you to actually explore and learn the layout of the building instead of just following a waypoint marker like a GPS in a minivan. It respects your intelligence and trusts you to figure out how to get from point A to point B without a big glowing arrow. It is a slow burn. It isn't a game for people who need constant explosions and dopamine hits every 5 seconds. It demands patience. You will spend minutes just sitting in the dark, waiting for a patrol pattern to open up so you can slip by. But when you pull off a heist without anyone ever knowing you were there, it is an incredible feeling. You feel like a master thief, not because the game told you that you are, but because you actually earned it. Thief 2 is ugly, clunky, and old, but it is also a masterpiece that puts the modern stealth genre to shame. It is the real deal.
Come into the light so that I might see thee. Oh!
Mark of the Ninja Remastered. This is arguably the best 2D stealth game ever made, and it puts a lot of 3D games to shame because it understands exactly what makes stealth satisfying. This feels like a high-budget ninja simulator. It boils the entire genre down to its absolute essentials and cuts out all the fat. It's lean, it's mean, and it is incredibly violent. The best thing this game does is visualization. In most games, you're guessing if a guard can hear you or see you. You just crouch and pray to whatever god you believe in that the AI doesn't decide to turn around. Here, the game shows you everything. Sound is visualized as blue rings. If the ring touches a guard, he hears you. If you are in the light, you are visible. If you are in the dark, you are invisible. It is binary. It removes the guesswork and replaces it with pure strategy. You know exactly what you can get away with, which allows you to play aggressively. You aren't timidly creeping around, you are sprinting, grappling, and sliding because you know exactly where the limit is. The movement is tighter than a fresh jar of pickles. You stick to walls, hang from ceilings, and grapple between vents with zero friction. You feel cool just moving around the map, and the kills are satisfying. You can sneak up on a guy and execute him, or you can dangle him from a lamppost to terrify his friends. The terror mechanic is hilarious. You throw a dead body at a guard, he freaks out, starts shooting wildly, and maybe kills his own teammate in the confusion. You feel like a predator toying with its food. The art style looks like a Saturday morning cartoon if the animators were all sociopaths. It's got this slick, hand-drawn look that flows really well. The Remastered basically just made everything look crisp in 4K and cleaned up the audio, which was already good. It didn't need to do much because the core game was already fantastic. There's also a lot of replay value because of the different suits and playstyles. You can unlock a suit that makes you completely silent but removes your sword, forcing you to play purely non-lethal. Or you can use the Path of Nightmares to just scare everyone to death. It rewards you for actually mastering the systems instead of just brute forcing your way through. It is an absolute slapper of a game. It respects your time, it makes you feel powerful, and it never feels unfair. If you get caught, it is 100% because you messed up. It is perfection in 2D form. Deus Ex Human Revolution. This game is the definition of cool. It drips with style, from the black and gold aesthetic to the soundtrack, which is arguably one of the best electronic scores ever put into a video game. You play as Adam Jensen, a security chief who gets turned into a cyborg against his will and decides to deal with his trauma by punching people through walls and breaking into every office in Detroit. It manages to revive the immersive sim genre that the original Deus Ex started without feeling like a pale imitation. It stands on its own two cybernetic legs and delivers an experience that is incredibly satisfying to play. The stealth here is fantastic because it utilizes a hybrid perspective. You are in first person most of the time, but when you snap to cover, it pulls back to third person. This gives you a clear view of your surroundings and lets you plan your next move without having to stick your head out and get spotted. It feels fluid and responsive. You can roll between cover, take down guards silently with the arm blades, or just bypass them entirely. The level design is built to support whatever playstyle you want. If there is a locked door, you can hack the keypad, find the code on a pocket secretary, blow the door off its hinges, or find a vent to crawl through. There is always a vent. You will spend half this game crawling through air ducts, smelling the farts of office workers, and you will love it because it makes you feel like a predator finding the perfect angle to strike. The augmentation system is where the game really shines. You aren't just unlocking stat boosts, you're unlocking superpowers. The Icarus landing system lets you jump off a roof and land in a shockwave that knocks everyone out. The cloaking system lets you walk right past cameras and guards like a ghost. The social enhancer lets you analyze people's pheromones during conversations to manipulate them. It is deep and it rewards you for exploring and gathering XP. However, the energy system is a bit of a nuisance. You have these batteries that power your abilities and they only recharge the first cell automatically. For the rest, you have to eat energy bars. So you have this super advanced military cyborg who has to constantly stop to munch on a Snickers bar so he can punch a guy. It breaks the immersion slightly, but it's a small price to pay for how fun the abilities are. The only part of this game that is absolute hot garbage is the boss fights. If you're playing the original version, the boss fights are miserable experiences that force you into direct combat even if you built your character entirely for stealth and hacking. You could go the whole game without firing a single bullet, and then suddenly you're locked in a room with a guy with a minigun and you have to shoot him to death with a pistol you found on the floor. The director's cut fixed this by adding stealth options to the boss arenas, but it still feels like a blemish on an otherwise perfect experience. It betrays the core philosophy of the game, which is play how you want. Despite that, the game is a masterpiece. The world building is top tier. You can read everyone's emails and learn about the office drama, the conspiracy theories, and the daily lives of people in this dystopian future. It feels lived in. The story is engaging and deals with transhumanism in a way that isn't totally pretentious. It makes you ask questions about the ethics of technology while you are busy throwing a vending machine at a guard. It is a brilliant game that deserves all the praise it gets. It is a classic. Yeah, this game is just stressful as hell in a way most stealth games never even try to be. It's not fun stealth where you feel clever and powerful. It's exhausting stealth where you're constantly on edge, crouched behind some desk, staring at a motion tracker like it's gonna save your life, knowing damn well it probably won't. The whole stealth system is built around sound and patience. You can't run everywhere like an idiot. Running is basically an announcement. Every footstep matters. Every door you open too fast matters. Bumping into stuff matters. You learn really fast to slow the hell down. Half the time you're just standing still, listening, not even moving, just listening to footsteps in vents or that horrible metallic thud when the alien drops somewhere nearby. And the alien itself is the main reason this works. It's not just another enemy with a route you memorize. It feels like it's always around, even when it's not. Sometimes it's actively hunting you, sometimes it's wandering, sometimes it's just gone for a bit and you never trust that silence. You don't outplay it, you survive it. That's the difference. You're not mastering stealth here, you're barely holding it together. The tools don't make you powerful either. Stuff like noisemakers, flares, smoke bombs, they're all temporary solutions. They buy you time, that's it. The flamethrower especially is a great example. The first time you use it, you think, okay, cool, I can fight back now. Then you realize it just scares the alien off for a bit and burns through fuel insanely fast. Use it too much and you're screwed later. Everything is about resource management and restraint. The station itself, Sevastopol, feels like it was designed specifically to make stealth miserable in a good way. Tight hallways, dark rooms, vents everywhere, desks and lockers that feel safe for about 5 seconds. Hiding is never a solution, it's just delaying the inevitable. The game constantly forces you to move through open areas where you feel completely exposed, and that's where the tension really kicks in. You also deal with humans and androids, which keeps things from getting repetitive. Humans are more traditional stealth enemies. Sneaking around them feels familiar, but the alien can show up at any time and ruin everything. Androids are slow, creepy, and relentless, forcing you to rethink how you approach areas because sneaking past them isn't always clean or easy. The game keeps layering threats so you never get comfortable.
Oh my god.
When you die, it usually makes sense. You made noise, you rushed, you stayed in one hiding spot too long, you trusted the locker too much. The game is punishing, but it's consistent. You learn how it works, even if you never feel fully in control. And that's the key thing. Even late into the game, when you have more gear, the alien is still terrifying. That fear never really goes away. Alien isolation never turns into a power fantasy. You're never cruising through areas like some stealth god. You're scraping by, constantly adapting, constantly stressed. It's stealth built around fear, patience, and survival instead of efficiency or style. So yeah, if you want stealth that actually makes your palms sweaty and forces you to slow down and think about every move, this is one of the best examples out there. It's uncomfortable, tense, and draining in the best way possible. Not a relaxing game at all, but easily one of the most memorable stealth experiences ever. Shadow Tactics Blade of the Shogun is this game single-handedly responsible for reviving a genre that was deader than disco. Before this came out, the commando-style real-time tactics genre was basically extinct, buried in a shallow grave somewhere in the early 2000s. Me games dug it up, slapped some samurai armor on it, and created something that is arguably better than the games that inspired it. It is brutal, it is unforgiving, and it is incredibly satisfying. The gameplay is essentially a top-down puzzle game where the pieces are people you have to murder. You control a squad of 5 characters, each with their own very specific set of skills, and you have to navigate through maps that are absolutely infested with guards. The stealth here is binary. You are either unseen or you are dead. There is no combat in the traditional sense. If you get spotted, alarms go off. 50 guards spawn out of thin air and you get turned into Swiss cheese. It forces you to play perfectly. You are constantly watching vision cones, checking patrol routes, and waiting for that 1-second window where nobody's looking so you can stab a guy and drag his body into a bush. The characters are the highlight. You have Hayato, the ninja who throws shurikens. You have Mugen, a samurai the size of a refrigerator who can kill 3 people at once with his sword wind attack and can literally pick up huge rocks to throw at people. Then you have Yuki, a trap specialist who is basically a walking war crime, and Takuma, an old man with a sniper rifle and a pet tanuki that distracts guards. The synergy between them is fantastic. You aren't just using one guy, you are setting up elaborate plays where Mugen lures a guard, Yuki traps him, Hayato takes out the sniper watching the area. The shadow mode feature is where your brain really starts to expand. It lets you queue up one action for each character and then execute them all simultaneously with one button press. Seeing your plan come together perfectly is a dopamine hit unlike anything else. You queue up 3 kills, hit enter, and watch 3 guards drop at the exact same second. It makes you feel like a tactical genius, but getting that requires a lot of failure. You will fail. A lot. This game embraces saves coming as a core mechanic. It literally puts a timer on the screen that yells at you if you haven't saved in the last minute. It knows you are going to mess up. It knows you're going to try something stupid like jumping off a roof onto a samurai, only to realize he has too much health and he just cuts you in half. So you quick save, you try, you die, you quick load, and you try something else. It removes the frustration of losing progress and lets you treat every encounter like a science experiment, where the variables are shurikens and bear traps. The art style is clean and readable, which is crucial for a game where seeing a guard behind a tree is the difference between life and death. The controls are snappy on PC, though I can't imagine playing this with a controller without getting arthritis. It is a niche game for a niche audience, but if you have even a passing interest in strategy or stealth, this is a must-play. It respects your time by being difficult but fair. It doesn't cheat. If you die, it's because you didn't see the guard on the tower. It is a grand salami. Desperados 3. It is the absolute peak of the real-time tactics genre. You are trading shurikens for revolvers and samurai swords for bear traps, but the core DNA is the same high-stakes puzzle solving that makes your brain hurt in a good way. The gameplay loop is identical to Shadow Tactics, but refined to a mirror shine. You control a squad of 5 misfits in the Wild West, and you have to navigate massive maps filled with guards who have the vision of eagles and the patience of saints. The stealth here is precise. You are constantly managing view cones, checking noise levels, and timing your movements down to the millisecond. If a guard sees footprints in the mud, he investigates. If a guard notices his buddy is missing from his post, he gets suspicious. It forces you to clean up your mess. You can't just kill everyone and leave a pile of bodies like you're playing Hitman on easy mode. You have to hide them in bushes, dump them in wells, or feed them to hogs. The characters are the best part. John Cooper is your standard cowboy with a throwing knife and the ability to shoot 2 people at once, which is cool, but he's the least interesting one compared to the freaks he hangs out with. You have Hector, who is just a large man with a giant bear trap he named Bianca. He is my favorite because he can whistle to lure guards into the trap, and then he just laughs. It is simple, honest work. Then you have Doc McCoy, who is a sniper and can throw his bag down as a distraction. When guards open it, it releases gas and knocks them out. It's hilarious every single time. But the real game changer is Isabel. She introduces voodoo magic into a cowboy game, and it completely breaks the reality of the situation. She can link 2 enemies together so that whatever happens to one happens to the other. If you stab one guy, the other guy 50 feet away just drops dead. It opens up so many possibilities for clearing rooms. You can link a guard to a chicken and then kill the chicken. It's brutal, it's weird, and it is incredibly fun to experiment with. She can also mind control guards to make them do your dirty work, which feels like cheating, but in the best way. The showdown mode is the glue that holds it all together. You can pause time completely, issue commands to every character, and then unpause to watch the chaos unfold. It turns the game into a choreographed ballet of violence. You have Cooper throwing a knife, McCoy sniping a guy in a tower, and Hector shotgunning 3 people at once, all happening in perfect sync. When it works, you feel like a genius. When it fails, and it will fail, you just hit that quick load button. The game reminds you to save constantly. It knows you're going to screw up. It wants you to experiment and fail so you can learn the systems. The level design is spectacular. The maps are huge and full of environmental kills. You can drop church bells on people, push rocks onto them, or rig a dynamited wall to explode. The train level is a standout where the environment is moving and you have to work around the geometry of the train cars. The banter between the characters is also surprisingly good. They actually feel like a team that grows to respect each other, not just a random assortment of units. It is a difficult game. It will kick your teeth in if you try to rush, but it is fair. Every time you die, you know exactly why. It's because you got greedy or you didn't see the one guard on the balcony. Desperados 3 is a masterpiece that proves this genre is alive and well. It is a must-play. Whatever opinions people want to have about the story, I'm not touching that here. Purely gameplay, purely stealth, this game is ridiculous. Like genuinely some of the smoothest third-person stealth I've ever played. Everything just flows in a way that makes it really hard to go back to other games without feeling like they're stiff or clunky. The first thing you notice is how good movement feels. Going prone, crawling under cars, slipping through grass, sliding between cover, vaulting over stuff. It all just works. There's no friction. You're never fighting the controls. When you mess up, it feels like your fault, not the game's. That alone puts it way above a lot of stealth games that technically have good ideas but feel like ass to actually play. The stealth itself changes constantly depending on the level and enemy type. Some areas are wide open with tall grass where you're crawling around, slowly repositioning, picking people off one by one. Other areas are tight indoor spaces where sound becomes the biggest problem, and one mistake snowballs instantly. You're always adapting. You're never doing the exact same thing for too long. Enemy AI is where the game really flexes. Human enemies communicate, call out names when someone goes down, spread out, flank you, flush you out. It feels chaotic in a very natural way. You don't feel like you're exploiting dumb behavior. You feel like you're barely staying ahead of people who are actively trying to kill you. Dogs especially add another layer because now scent matters. You can't just sit in one spot forever. You're constantly moving, doubling back, breaking line of sight. Then you've got the infected, which completely change the stealth rules. Clickers force you to move slowly and deliberately, timing every throw and every step. sharp. Runners create noise and panic. Stalkers are just annoying in the best way, because they actually hide and wait for you. Switching between human stealth and infected stealth keeps the pacing sharp because you're using the same mechanics in totally different ways. What makes it all work is how forgiving the game is. Without being easy, you can recover from mistakes. If you get spotted, it doesn't always mean instant death. You can dive prone, break line of sight, reposition, turn a bad situation into controlled chaos. The stealth feels dynamic instead of binary. You're not either invisible or dead. You're constantly adjusting on the fly. Weapons and tools feed directly into stealth instead of replacing it. Silencers are temporary, ammo is scarce, crafting is limited. You're always making decisions like whether it's worth using a bottle now or saving it for later. Even melee feels weighty and desperate, which fits perfectly. Nothing feels overpowered for long. Level design deserves a lot of credit too. Areas are built with multiple routes, vertical paths, hidden spaces, and enough freedom to approach encounters in different ways. You're encouraged to experiment, to move, to think about positioning instead of just crouching behind the nearest object and waiting. The Last of Us Part 2 is one of those rare games where stealth, movement, animation, and AI all come together perfectly. It feels polished to an absurd degree. Every transition is smooth, every action feels intentional, and the game constantly adapts to how you play, instead of forcing you into one rigid style. If you care about modern stealth gameplay, this is basically the gold standard. It's tense without being clunky, aggressive without losing control, and fluid in a way very few games manage. You're not just sneaking around, you're surviving moment to moment, and it feels incredible the entire time. Okay, I am sneaking in Uncharted 4 because why the fuck not? It's my favorite series, but hey, hear me out. This is not a stealth game. This is loud, chaotic, cinematic insanity most of the time. Explosions, collapsing buildings, shootouts that turn into absolute messes. That's the core of it. But it still deserves a quick mention here because when the game does slow down and lets you play stealthy, it actually does it really well. There are a handful of open combat sections where you're not immediately shoved into a shootout. You're dropped into these wide areas with tall grass, multiple elevations, rooftops, cliffs, and patrols moving around naturally. In those moments, the game lets you choose. You can go loud in 5 seconds, or you can actually take your time and clear the area quietly, and it feels surprisingly good when you do. The stealth itself is simple but clean. Movement is smooth, animations are polished, and takedowns feel satisfying without being overcomplicated. You're not juggling a million systems, you're just watching patrol routes, sticking to cover, using elevation, and picking people off when it makes sense. It never feels janky or half-baked, which is more than you can say for a lot of games that try way harder to be stealth-focused. What really helps is the level design. Those semi-open areas are designed in a way where stealth actually feels intentional. Tall grass works, flanking routes exist, vertical paths matter, and you're rewarded for repositioning instead of just crouching in one spot. You can mess up, recover, relocate, and keep going without the whole thing falling apart instantly. And even when things inevitably go loud, it doesn't feel like stealth failed, it just feels like a natural escalation. You tried to be quiet, it didn't fully work, now it's chaos. That transition feels smooth, which is something Uncharted does better than most games. There's no hard switch, it just flows. So yeah, Uncharted 4 isn't here because it's some stealth benchmark, it's here because it shows how good stealth can feel, even in a game that's primarily about spectacle. The set pieces are insane, the pacing is fantastic, and those quieter sections where you're sneaking through enemy camps are a nice change of pace that absolutely deserve a nod. Even when it's not trying to be stealthy, the game still feels polished as hell, and that's why it stands out. This is the Assassin's Creed game that everyone wanted for 15 years, but Ubisoft was too busy making games with RPG mechanics nobody asked for to actually deliver it. Sucker Punch came in and completely embarrassed the competition by making an open-world samurai game that actually respects your time and your eyeballs. It is visually one of the most stunning things I have ever seen. You could pause the game at any random moment, take a screenshot, and frame it on your wall, and people would think you are a cultured art collector instead of a guy who just spent 4 hours chasing a fox to find a shrine. The gameplay loop is built around this internal conflict between being an honorable samurai and being the ghost, which is just a fancy word for a ninja who fights dirty. The game really wants you to feel bad about using stealth. Your uncle Shimura is constantly lecturing you about honor and looking people in the eye when you kill them, acting like a fucking boomer who can't adapt to the changing times. But let's be real, the honorable path is great, but the stealth path is where the actual fun is. The stealth here is violent, efficient, and incredibly satisfying. You aren't just poking people, you are dismembering them from the shadows. You have an arsenal of tools that make you feel like feudal Japan's Batman. You have wind chimes to distract guards, firecrackers to group them up, and sticky bombs to turn them into red mist. The smoke bomb is the MVP here. You can drop one in the middle of a fight, vanish instantly, and then chain assassinate 3 people before the smoke even clears. The chain assassination ability lets you wipe out an entire patrol in seconds. You jump down from a roof, stab one guy, and the game lets you teleport slightly to the next guy and the next guy in a fluid motion that looks like a dance of death. It is silky smooth. The best part of the stealth is the terrify mechanic. As you become more of the ghost, enemies actually start to fear you. You can drop down, brutalize a commander, and the other Mongols will just fall to the ground in terror or drop their weapons and run away. It makes you feel like an actual mythical monster. Most stealth games just have enemies go back to their patrol routes after they see a dead body like nothing happened. Here, they shake in their boots. It sells the fantasy that you are this legendary demon that is haunting the island. Even the navigation feeds into the immersion. There is no ugly mini-map cluttering the screen with 1,000 icons. You just swipe on the controller touchpad and the wind blows in the direction of your objective. It is such a simple, genius design choice that keeps your eyes on the world instead of a UI element in the corner. The combat, when you do get caught, is also top tier. You switch stances on the fly to counter different enemies. Water stands for shields, stone for swords, wind for spears. It flows perfectly. The story hits hard too. It doesn't just kill the bad guy, it is about a man losing his identity and his family to save his home. Jin Sakai is a great protagonist because you see him struggle with every decision. He knows what he is doing is wrong by his code, but he does it anyway because it works. Ghost of Tsushima is a masterpiece. It cuts the fat, delivers on the fantasy, and feels incredible to play from start to finish. This is the superhero game that every other superhero game wishes it could be when it grows up. It took everything that was great about Arkham Asylum and injected it with enough steroids to kill a horse. Rocksteady looked at the first game and said, okay, that was cool, but what if we let you fly? And they created arguably the best open world traversal system ever made. You aren't just running around, you are gliding, diving, and grappling with a momentum that makes you feel physically powerful. You can dive bomb from a gargoyle, pull up at the last second to catch the wind, and soar across the entire map without ever touching the ground. It is the closest any of us will ever get to actually being Batman without needing $1 billion in dead parents. The stealth here is what they call predator encounters, and the name is accurate because you aren't hiding, you are hunting. You are stuck in a room with armed thugs, and instead of being afraid of their guns, you make them afraid of the dark. The game gives you a toolbox of gadgets that is just unfair. You could hang upside down from gargoyles, spray explosive gel on walls to blow them inward onto unsuspecting goons, use a jammer to disable their guns, or throw a batarang to knock them over. But the best part is the fear mechanic. You have this detective vision that lets you see their heart rates. At the start, they are calm, talking trash, but as you pick them off one by one, their heart rates spike. They start panicking, shooting at shadows, screaming at each other. You are literally Batman playing psychological warfare with criminals, and it is satisfying in a primal way. The combat is the free flow system, and it is still the gold standard for beat-em-ups. It isn't just button mashing, it is rhythm. You are bouncing between enemies like a pinball of justice, breaking arms and legs with a crunch that you can feel in your teeth. When you get a high combo going and you are countering 3 guys at once while throwing batarangs in the middle of a backflip, you enter a flow state that is pure gaming nirvana. It makes you feel like a martial arts god, and the sheer amount of content in this prison city is ridiculous. You have the main story, which is fantastic and has the best Joker performance ever by Mark Hamill, and then you have have a million side quests involving almost every villain in Batman's Rogue Gallery. The Riddler trophies are back, and while there are way too many of them, like seriously, who has the time to hide 400 trophies? Solving the puzzles actually makes you feel smart. You have to use every single gadget you have in creative ways. You need to use the remote-controlled battering to hit switches, the line launcher to create tightropes, and the cryptographic sequencer to hack terminals. It forces you to master your equipment. The boss fights are also a huge step up. The Mr. Freeze fight is legendary. You cannot use the same move on him twice. If you do a silent takedown, he freezes the gargoyles. If you attack through a grate, he freezes the floor. It forces you to adapt and use every stealth trick in the book. It is brilliant game design that tests your knowledge of the mechanics rather than your ability to spam a button. Arkham City is a masterpiece. It is dark, gritty, and atmospheric. The city itself feels like a character, a rotting, gothic nightmare that is fun to explore. It respects the source material while doing its own thing. It is one of the few games that lives up to the hype and exceeds it.
I'm sure it came from over there.
Oh, one man down. It's looking like a rerun of last time.
Next up is Ghost Recon Wildlands. This one's interesting because it's not tight scripted stealth, it's big, messy, open world stealth where the game just throws an entire country at you and says do whatever you want, and somehow it mostly works. The stealth here is all about freedom. You're dropped into these massive areas with outposts, roads, patrols, snipers, generators, alarms, and like 20 different ways things can go wrong. You can sit on a hill a mile away with a drone and tag every enemy like a psycho, or you can go in on foot at night, cutting lights, sneaking through bushes, grabbing guys and dragging them away. The game doesn't force a correct approach. It lets you make a plan and then watch it slowly fall apart. What makes Wildlands stealth fun is how readable everything is. Enemy awareness makes sense. Line of sight matters, sound matters, time of day matters. Night missions feel genuinely different because visibility drops and enemies rely more on flashlights and radios. Suppressors actually do what you expect, but if you start popping too many guys too fast, someone's gonna notice something's wrong. Alarms are a real threat. Let one go off and suddenly you're dealing with reinforcements, helicopters, and chaos. The squad also plays a big role in stealth. You're not just a lone guy. You can sync shot multiple enemies at once, clear rooftops, take out snipers, and clean up a base almost surgically if you plan it right. When it works, it feels incredibly clean. When it doesn't, it turns into a full-blown firefight in about 3 seconds. The open world is both the best and worst part. On one hand, the freedom is great. You can approach from literally any direction, pull back if things get messy, or just wait for the perfect moment. On the other hand, the AI can be inconsistent, and sometimes stealth breaks in ways that feel a bit dumb. A random civilian sees something, a patrol spawns weirdly, or enemies suddenly know exactly where you are. It's not perfect, but the scale kinda makes up for it. What Wildlands nails is that feeling of being a ghost. Hitting a base at night, lights out, no alarms, bodies hidden, chopper flying overhead while you're crawling through grass, that stuff hits hard. It's not about precision like a puzzle stealth game, it's about preparation and patience. This isn't stealth where you reload a checkpoint every mistake, it's stealth where you adapt. If things go loud, you deal with it. If a plan fails, you improvise. The game encourages that mindset instead of punishing you for not being perfect. Ghost Recon Wildlands is rough around the edges, but when its stealth works, it really works. It gives you the space to play tactically, think ahead, and approach situations your own way. It's not elegant, it's not super tight, but it's one of the best examples of large-scale open-world stealth done right.
Ready. Call the shot. Engaging.
Lobbing a flashbang.
Assassin's Creed Syndicate. This is the black sheep of the franchise because it had the misfortune of coming out right after the absolute disaster that was Unity's launch. So everyone just kind of ignored it or treated it like a bad smell in an elevator. But that is a mistake because Syndicate actually has one of the most refined and enjoyable stealth systems in the entire series. It takes the ideas from Unity and actually makes them work without the game crashing or your character's face melting off. The biggest game changer here is the dedicated stealth button. It sounds stupid that this is a feature worth praising, but in previous games, the game decided when you were crouching. Here, you press a button, Jacob or Evie snaps their hood up, crouches down, and enters stalker mode. It gives you immediate control over your state. You feel cooler just doing it. It separates the social stealth from the I am going to stab you in the neck stealth perfectly. The kidnapping mechanic is the best addition they ever made, and I have no idea why they removed it in later games. You can grab a guard, twist his arm behind his back, and force him to walk with you. As long as you keep moving and don't act suspicious, other guards just think you are escorting a prisoner or a drunk friend. It allows you to walk right through the front door of a restricted area, past 50 guys while using their own buddy as a human shield. It is hilarious and tense at the same time, because if you get too close, they realize something is wrong. It turns stealth into this weirdly intimate dance where you are whispering threats into a guy's ear while walking him to his death. Then you have the rope launcher. Purists hate this thing because they say it ruins parkour, but let's be real, climbing a flat brick wall for 5 minutes isn't fun. The rope launcher basically turns you into Victorian Batman. You can zip from a rooftop to a chimney instantly. It opens the stealth so much because you can create your own zip lines directly over a target, air assassinate them, and then zip back up before the body hits the floor. You are an apex predator. You aren't struggling with the geometry, you are bypassing it to get the perfect angle. The black box missions return here and they are fantastic. These are the main assassination missions where the game just drops you in a massive location like the Tower of London or a hospital and says, kill this guy, I don't care how. You can find unique kill opportunities. You can hide in a fake corpse on a gurney to get wheeled into the room with the target, rise up like the Undertaker and stab him. It rewards you for exploring and finding these cinematic kills instead of just rushing in. You also have to give credit to the character split. Jacob is a meathead brawler, but Evie is the stealth god. Her skill tree allows her to carry more throwing knives, which are one-hit kills to the head, thank god, and she has an ability where if she stands still in stealth mode, she is nearly invisible. It is overpowered, sure, but it makes you feel like a ghost. Syndicate is goofy, the story is light, but the actual act of sneaking around London, kidnapping guards, and ziplining away is peak Assassin's Creed. It is a sleeper hit that deserves way more respect than it gets. A Plague Tale Requiem is what happens when you take the stealth sections of The Last of Us, transport them to medieval France, and then inject them with a lethal dose of the bubonic plague. It is not strictly a stealth game in the traditional sense, you're not Sam Fisher wearing night vision goggles, but if you try to play this like Call of Duty, you are going to get your cheeks clapped instantly. You play as Amicia, who has basically evolved from a scared teenager in the first game into a medieval John Wick with a sling. The stealth here is stressful, it is high stakes, and it is honestly some of the most intense don't get caught gameplay I have experienced in a long time. You are constantly outnumbered, outgunned, and usually navigating through a sea of literal filth and disease. The stealth isn't about feeling powerful, it is about surviving by the skin of your teeth while protecting your little brother who is basically a walking biological weapon of mass destruction. The actual mechanics of the sneaking are a massive step up from the first game, Innocence. In the first one, if a guard saw you, it was basically game over, you were just dead meat. Here, you actually have options. You can slip back into the shadows, break line of sight, or if you are feeling spicy, you can use alchemy to craft different ammo types to mess with the AI. And that is where the real fun of the stealth comes in. It is not just about hiding in tall grass and waiting for a guard to walk past, it is about puzzle solving with murder. You can use Extinguish to put out a guard's torch so the rats eat him alive, which is arguably the most brutal way to take someone out in video game history. Watching a swarm of 1,000 rats engulf a dude because you turned his nightlight off is morbidly satisfying in a way that probably puts me on a watch list. The rats are the star of the show here. They aren't just a hazard, they are a tool for your stealth. You are manipulating the environment, moving light sources, and hurting these little furry demons to clear a path for you. It adds this layer of strategy that most stealth games lack, where you are usually just worried about vision cones. Here you are worried about vision cones and also the floor turning into a meat grinder. However, it is not all sunshine and rainbows. The AI can still be a bit of a goober sometimes. You will have moments where a guard stares right at you while you are crouching behind a crate that barely covers your knees, and he just decides you must be a hallucination and walks away. Other times they have the vision of a hawk on Adderall and spot you from across the map. It can be inconsistent, but the tools you have make up for it. The crossbow is a game changer. It lets you play stealth aggressively. You can pick off a helmetless enemy silently and keep moving, but the game punishes you for trying to kill everyone. Resources are scarce, bolts are limited, so you're forced to be calculating. You can't just clear a room for the fun of it unless you want to be left with nothing but a rock and a prayer for the next encounter. And the pacing of these stealth sections is masterful. It breaks up the walking and talking with these pockets of pure tension, where you are holding your breath hoping Hugo doesn't say something stupid and give away your position.
He'll manage. We must leave, Hugo. They'll kill us if they catch us. But
Visually, this game is a graphical powerhouse. It is stunning. The lighting, the textures, the way the rats move like a fluid simulation, it is all top tier. But that fidelity comes at a cost, specifically to your frame rate. When the rats really start flooding the screen, you can feel your system sweating. But honestly, the performance hit is almost worth it for the spectacle. The story is also just gut-wrenching. It is a sad, miserable journey, but it is written so well that you are invested in every stealth encounter because you genuinely care about these characters not dying. You aren't just sneaking to get a high score, you're sneaking because you don't want to see Amicia get a spear through the chest. It's emotional stealth. So while it might not be a pure stealth sandbox like Hitman, the stealth elements here are robust, engaging, and serve the narrative perfectly. It is a fantastic experience that will leave you depressed but satisfied. I'm giving A Plague Tale Requiem an 85 on the moist meter. Here you play as a vengeful spirit that is quite literally made of shadows, which sounds like the edgy backstory of a DeviantArt OC created by a 14-year-old listening to Linkin Park, but it actually works really well here. This is a pure stealth game in the strictest sense of the word. A lot of games these days claim to be stealth games, but they're actually just action games where you can crouch sometimes. In Aragami, you are a glass cannon. Actually, calling you a glass cannon is generous. You are more like a wet tissue paper cannon. If an enemy sneezes in your general direction or shines a flashlight on you, you just disintegrate. There's no blocking, there's no parrying, there is no press X to counter. If you get seen, you get put in the dirt. This forces you to play the game the way it was intended, stalking through the darkness and terrified of the light like a Discord moderator leaving his basement for the first time in 3 years. The core mechanic is this shadow leap ability, where you can teleport to any shadow in range. It feels incredibly snappy and satisfying to just zip around the map. You are constantly scanning the environment for patches of darkness to recharge your shadow essence, which creates this really fun rhythm of movement. The floor is lava, but instead of lava, it is bright light that strips you of your powers and leaves you naked and afraid. You can create your own shadows temporarily to bridge gaps, which makes you feel like a big brain tactician when you pull it off. You're hopping from roof to roof, dropping down on unsuspecting guards and swallowing them into the abyss. It scratches that itch for old school Tenchu gameplay that the industry has largely ignored for years. It doesn't try to be a massive open world RPG with crafting systems and fishing minigames. It knows exactly what it is, a game about stabbing dudes in the back and looking cool doing it. However, it is not without its jank. The game has a certain level of Euro jank to it despite being made by a Spanish studio. The movement, while fun, can sometimes feel a bit clunky. There will be times you try to teleport to a ledge and the cursor just refuses to lock on, leaving you standing there like a goober while a guard slowly turns around and spots you. And speaking of guards, the AI here is a mixed bag of nuts. Sometimes they are deaf, dumb, and blind, completely ignoring the fact that their best friend just vanished into a cloud of black smoke 3 feet away from them. Other times they have the omniscient awareness of a god and will spot your left earlobe sticking out of a shadow from across the courtyard. It can be frustrating when the rules of detection feel inconsistent, especially in a game where one mistake sends you back to the loading screen. The boss fights are also kind of weird, trying to shoehorn combat mechanics into a game that isn't built for it, but they are serviceable. Visually, the game has this really nice cel-shaded art style that helps it age pretty well. The bright red capes of the enemies pop against the dark environments, which is great for readability. The story is there, it exists, it's a standard revenge plot with some twists, but let's be real, you aren't here for Shakespeare. You are here to be a ninja. Despite the technical hiccups and the occasional frustration with the controls, it is a genuinely fun stealth experience that respects your time. It is challenging without being unfair, mostly. It rewards patience and planning, and clearing a room without anyone ever knowing you were there releases the good chemicals in the brain. It is a solid, focused indie title that does one thing and does it well.